So what you just saw was an updated version of my TNT compression module, which is this design right in front of you. Now, my previous version had a few major differences from this version. First of all, I changed how the TNT generators worked. So instead of being larger and more bulky like they were in the other design and like shown here, I actually managed to make it so that there was TNT every other block. And I did this by having these in between rows slightly offset and then just powering each side of TNT so you would be able to compress this to every other row. Another thing I did was I worked on the compression a ton, and this was a big pain in my butt the whole time, but eventually I got it working. This system right here I'm super happy with. As the TNT falls where there are these holes in the fences, it just gets pushed along and then it gets reset on the other side, and there were a few weird things that I had to do to make this system work just because it was slightly over push limit, but in the end it all works and compresses TNT super quickly. And then the second set of sweepers also gave me a huge pain because of this piston right here. It couldn't be here, it couldn't be here or here just because the TNT would actually, well, it couldn't be here because the TNT would clip the piston on its way down, and it couldn't be here because then this sweeper would be over push limit. So that's why I have this design towards the bottom instead of out to the side of the sweeper, which unfortunately adds one more block downwards, but it doesn't actually affect the performance of the system, so it's just fine. I also focused a lot on making these sides really compact and redstoneless, so the only redstone is up here, which I'm planning to update and hopefully eliminate in a future version of this design. As you can see, this side is also redstoneless. So this is just going to be a quick showcase of this module working. If I flick this switch, TNT is compressed, and actually between where the TNT starts and this block is only 23 blocks of space, so it's super fast just because of how close these compressors are to the actual TNT modules, and it goes ahead and starts compressing it really quickly after the TNT is generated. And it's the same with these sweepers. I couldn't make them one higher because then they'd stick to this part, and with this current setup I believe this is about as compact as it can be functionally. I think I can make some of the redstone a bit more compact, but I'm not as worried about that. I also probably can make this side a lot more compact just because I changed it up so it wasn't based on an observer to push the whole system back. I just timed it and used observers over here. Now this system over here is mostly just for show. I wanted to show off the 4 TNT modules. This actually generates 100 TNT, and it all compresses towards the center, which just aesthetically I think looks a whole lot better than just that single module. Also down here I added this same design that was by XCOM. I'm starting to think this might be a bit overkill for what I actually need, but currently I don't really feel like designing a better system, and so here this is. But in the future I'm definitely planning to make a system like this that's specifically for these modules and is a lot more suited to my needs. In the future, I'm looking into removing some of this redstone up on the top, possibly compacting these generator modules even more, compacting some of the redstone on the outsides, and making the whole system programmable as well as much more tileable and larger. But ultimately that's gonna come in the future. Right now I just wanted to show off this concept and the actual compression that I did here because I think it's really smart and quite fast, much faster than anything I've seen. So yeah, I'd like to thank Tim the Ranger, who basically worked with me throughout this whole process, and he came up with a lot of these ideas alongside me, and he also has a video that's showcasing some of his designs. His design is slightly less compact and a little slower than mine, but it's still great and a lot less complicated, so you should definitely go check that out. Also thanks to Curb, who helped us out a ton with this whole project and also with getting the Genesis server started, which if you haven't heard about the Genesis server, you should go check out our Discord, which is linked down in the description. Lastly, I'd like to thank XCOM, who ultimately got me into TNT compression and inspired me to do this project. And if you haven't checked out the last video, I talked a lot more about how I actually got to this point, and you should definitely go check that out, which will also be linked in the description.